The game of the week. The game of the week is an in-depth look at a family-friendly game we think you should try if you get the chance. This week's game is Hutan, Life in the Rainforest. Designed by Asger Harding Granerud and Daniel Skold Peterson. Art by Vincent Dutrait and published by The Op. This is a 2025 release. Playtime of 30 minutes. 1 to 4 players, ages 8+. This is a family game and is the third game of the week featuring the design duo. Doug, give us an overview.
Venture into the lush heart of an Indonesian rainforest where vibrant flowers and towering trees create homes for majestic wildlife. In Hutan, Life of the Rainforest, players become conservationists, cultivating a jungle patch to attract iconic animals and build the most thriving ecosystem. Each player starts with a personal rainforest board featuring 4 segments of jungle terrain divided into regions of various sizes. Players take 2 turns each round drafting a flower card from a central market pool. Flower cards feature vibrant flowers of 5 different types and colors. And after drafting a card, you're going to grab the corresponding flower tokens and place them on your board, either next to existing flowers or on top of matching flowers to grow trees. When a region fills with trees, the final tree transforms into a habitat, welcoming a magnificent animal like an orangutan or Sumatran tiger. The challenge lies in strategic placement. Animal tokens are limited, and you have no idea what flower tiles may come out next round. The good news is that animals fertilize neighboring spaces, letting you place extra flowers and boosting efficiency. But beware, incomplete or mixed color regions score negative points at the end of the game, so plan carefully to avoid a tangled jungle. The game ends after 9 rounds, and players score points for their animals, completed regions, and ecosystem goal cards during the advanced variant. The conservationist with the most points wins. So can you cultivate a thriving rainforest teeming with wildlife, or will your jungle dreams wilt under the canopy? So that is the overview of the game, Michael. What do you like in the gameplay aspect?
Yeah, I found this game really easy to grasp and tremendously difficult to master. You know, as the game opens up and I try to complete one of those 4 areas, I can see a few different options, and that adjacency requirement for placing the flowers really limits the think time. And so it's like, okay, 2 or 3 obvious options. I'm going to choose that one. Yeah. So having those few options, for me, this was a simpler to understand and quicker Acropolis, and a game that I also really enjoy. But boy, I don't grasp games as quickly as you do oftentimes. If there is a Mensa member among the hosts, you're definitely the member. And this was a game that it was easy to jump into and really just dive right in and pick up. And okay, I'm going to take a card, or I'm going to take the first player. And now I'm going to play while you're drafting your card, I'm going to place my flowers on. Oh, it's my turn again? Yeah. Those are some of the things that I liked about it. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun puzzle, right? Should you fill up your spaces or add animals? And if you do add animals, can you do it in a way that maximizes fertilizer? Sometimes, so you have to go kind of 3 steps, and we'll get through this later with some of the skills, but you have to think about, okay, what color am I putting into this region? Can I fill this region up? I need to now get trees in all of the region. Oh, and make sure that the last tree that I put in is in an optimal space so that when I put the animal there, it's going to help me, and I can maximize the benefit of that. That sounds all very complicated, but it's not while you're playing. And I think this lives in a perfect zone between casual and crunchy, right? It can be picked up easy and quickly, but it doesn't get boring. Yeah. I mean, we wanted to play this game again immediately, and it's funny.
And we did.
2 times. After. And it's funny because you play it once and you're like, oh, I think I've got it. And then you play it the next game and it's like the puzzle doesn't get easier. It stays constant every game because you don't know which flowers are going to come out, how many of them are going to come out. And it's like you might be trying to fill up a region with blue flowers, and it's like there's not enough blue flowers coming out for you to do that, at a certain point in the game. So that's what I love about the gameplay, is that it's casual, but it's thinky, but it moves fast. It's like a game of multitudes. It just has various aspects to it that seemingly contradict one another, but work perfectly.
Yeah, you said a lot there. And first time we got together on a Sunday to play a bunch of games. We were going to get through some games that we wanted to play, not necessarily needed to play to quote unquote review, but that we wanted to play. And Hutan was the first game we played, and the second game we played, and the third game we played, and the fourth game we played. And for our listeners and viewers, that is strange. Yeah. That is very strange. In our 5 years together, there might be 2 or 3 games that we have done that with. Typically, if we play a game twice in a single sitting, even if it's an awesome game, we'll come back to it the next day, the next week. We have other games that we need to play and visit. Yeah. And so that's what I mean. When I say the game was simple to grasp, there's also an engagement element there that I just wanted to keep playing it. I wanted to, oh man, yeah, I'm happy with the animal I selected, but man, it only led to 1 flower. Oh, I got to go find a different animal and make sure that it kicks off and gives me 3 or 4 flowers. So there's that sense of attempting to master the game that I'm playing that I found very enjoyable.
Yeah, I think I really love what the op is doing with family and advanced variants.
Okay, so, say more about that.
So they're in this game, and they've done it in a couple of their past ones as well, is that there is the game with the rules is written. Then there's also a lighter family variant that either takes some rules out or changes things. And then there's an advanced thing. So you can play this on 3 different levels. The family one, the animals don't fertilize, so you don't need to worry about teaching players of how that spreads out.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't.
So what do they do? They're just there for end game scoring in the family.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then you don't get negative points for mismatched or not filling up a region, which is huge, because that first time you play through, those negative points are like a punch in the face.
Killer. Yeah.
And you're just like, ooh, I got to try and prevent that going forward. It's very hard not to do. But then there's an advanced variant as well that includes ecosystem cards that are essentially there's 25 and 24 in the box. Use 5 during the game, and they're end game scoring rules for ecosystems. So different objectives that you're trying to reach. So I appreciate that in there, because it's kind of like getting 3 games in a box. I can play this with my 9 and 10-year-olds and my wife in the family mode.
That's interesting.
I can play the regular game with gamers and sometimes people more familiar with it. And then if I've got a hobby game group, I can throw those advanced things in there and have 3 different games ready to go, depending on what group I'm playing with. And there's not a lot of games that do that, but I feel like the op has done it a couple times here with some of their last bigger releases.
Yeah. And it also plays solo. So if I want to play the game just for me, or play the game to review it, so I remember, how the structure of a turn and the drafting and things like that, I could do that as well. Can we keep it moving here? Is that right?
What do you got for the production?
Production's incredible. I mean, for what's in the box, you've got the wooden pieces, you've got, really nice flowers. I think I asked you, did we get a deluxe upgrade kit? Did our friends at the op send us a deluxe upgrade kit? And if I recall correctly, we did not, right? That's just what comes in the box. So I was more than impressed with the production. I thought colors might be an issue when I first saw this one. That's why I had it on the want to play list. But I was hoping to play your copy first. But colors were not an issue. It was just really good, clean production.
Yeah, I think the op is doing a really good job of hitting the sweet spot of what a modern production should be. It's not overproduced, but it still includes quality components, right? So it's kind of threading that needle where sometimes you get a game and it's got all these fancy bits and stuff, but it's like, I also don't want the $70 price tag that comes with it. And I also don't want the $25 price game where everything is cheap and chintzy. And it seems like they're doing it really well. They've been using like cardboard inserts that you punch out and put together and keep everything sorted. They have something similar in Gnome Hollow.
Yep.
I want to say Aqua had that as well. So I think they're doing a really good job of like I said, threading that needle between cost and value. So
yeah, and Vincent Dutrait art also, you know, you can't go wrong with that, and so the op also had another game with Vincent Dutrait art called the ART Project, and similar feeling when you get an artist like that on a box like this. It just gives it, to me, it gives it that sense of, wow, there's a lot in here. There's a lot in this box. So
anything to be aware of on this one, Michael?
Yeah, just a couple things. It'll get messy, and perfection is unlikely. So I just want to share that with our listeners. That there's some stuff that's happening here as you're drafting cards and you're getting your flowers out. And I'm really talking to our parents and our educators if they're thinking, oh, I want to get this on the kidney table in the classroom, or I can't wait to play this at home. If you're playing this with kiddos, you're going to be managing some things as well, especially at that lower age, that 8 to 10, even 11, 12 years old. If you're somebody who really likes a nice, tidy space, this one could get a little bit messy. Not like with paint or little fussy things, but there's some big flowers that are going to get thrown around on the table with the stacks of cards. And then the end game scoring, you just need to be prepared to do a little bit of computation. Those are the only two things to be aware of for me. How about you?
Yeah. No, the only thing that I have is that be aware of those negative points. And I think if you're playing with younger kids, don't be afraid to do that family variant first, because there's a good chance that your completed regions will get zeroed out by your negative point regions. Your first
we're speaking from experience.
Yes. So just to be aware of that. So it can be a real punch in the gut when you get to final scoring and you're like, wait, I have how many negative points? That the same amount as my completed regions, and that I obviously it made Michael and I want to say, let's try that again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can also see somebody having that happen to and being like, well, I just don't know how I'm ever going to do this, and be done and disappointed. And especially if you're the one, if you're introducing it and you've already played and you kind of had that wrinkle already, that could be tough as well. If you're familiar with how penalizing that can be, and you're playing with first time players and they don't, and they're just like, oh, you only got negative 5 points and I got negative 25 points.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that.
But that is somewhat of a hallmark with this design team, right?
Yeah.
In the two games that have been games of the week in the past, Deep Blue and Heat, not that they have negative points, but in the racing game Heat, you can get punished if you don't play your cards properly, right?
Yeah. Things can go bad.
They can. So it's, I actually really enjoy that part of Hutan. I think it doesn't allow me to just spam one certain part of the board or focus too much on one part of the board. I'm glad you're bringing it up, because you had it in the first game that we played, and in the second game, I definitely got hit with a boatload of negative points because I had multiple regions that weren't completed, and I was shocked. I thought, what? I wanted to score higher than I did in the first game, and I scored 14 points lower. What did I do? I didn't pay attention over there or there or there.
Yeah, it's a thing that I love. I think it is part of that puzzle that pushes you of, oh, I can do that. I can do that better. I can do that better.
Yeah.
Let's try it again. Let's run it back. And more of just be aware of it, that it's in the game, and it didn't affect me that way, but I'm just curious how if that would affect other people differently and kind of sway their opinion on the game. How about skills, Michael?
Yeah, my first skill is processing information, a game in which players must examine or analyze information. I think in looking at the draft, there's one piece that we haven't talked about yet. One of your draft actions, you can actually choose to be the first player in the next round. And more than once, I found that to be a very valuable selection, being able to choose that turn order piece. The other part where processing information is just looking at when is the right time to go in and try to get that animal. And there's a few different skills that could fit what I'm saying there. And I could see how Doug could bring that into a variety of skills as well. But just being able to handle that from a processing standpoint. What's your first skill you want to talk about?
The logistics, which is a game that allows players to manage production flow between the point of origin and consumption. And that process, which I mentioned of one of the things I really liked about the gameplay, is trying to lay out your board in a way that makes sense, because it has to happen in a very specific order. You have to get flowers, and then you need to stack flowers on top of them in order to create trees. And then you need to fill up the whole area with trees before you can get an animal. And so trying to figure out how you're going to do that with the cards that you're drafting and lay out your board in a way that kind of keeps it open so you have options. And because there is a point towards the end of the game where you're like, I can't do anything with these. Yep. And am forced to make incomplete or mismatched regions. And so following that production step by step and making sure that it's a little bit of an assembly line type of thing of making sure I have all of the parts I need to pull off the goal that I want to. And so normally you kind of think of I've got to get this resource, and then I've got to change it into another resource and then deliver it to another side of the board. This is kind of following that same idea of step, 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 but it's in a more of a spatial arrangement of like, how do I fill up my warehouse efficiently so I don't run out of space to put the things that I need to? And then when I put the things that I want in there, to make sure they're helping me in an optimal way.
And filling up your warehouse in a proper order, right?
Yeah. And I think, so we put all the couches in the back, but I think that leads into comprehension, which is This is a game that requires players to perceive and understand the concepts, ideas, and functions of the game. You don't get to that level of logistics without understanding how the game works and how to use those actions and turns to your advantage to make them work. So that's why I put comprehension on there as well, which it fits in with your processing information too.
Yeah, really good pair of skills there. I'm going to add one that I haven't really used and referenced this skill quite like this before, and that's resource management, a game that boosts a player's capacity to efficiently and effectively oversee available assets. And typically on our show, when we talk about resource management as a skill, we're talking about, do you have cards, or do you have, some items that you're able to convert and manage? And at some point in this game, I don't know if it's in that, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh round, but the board itself in front of me actually becomes a resource, because I have a few trees, but I need to get a few more trees in order to get an animal. And just being able to effectively see that on the board and to manage the board as a resource itself is, I think, very unique. And I mentioned this earlier in the segment when I called out to Mensa. Mensa is an organization for very smart people. All right. And Hutan was very recently received the Mensa seal of approval. So there's an article out there on Board Game Wire. I can throw it in the Discord when this show airs as well. But I think it's that the game takes skills that we've talked about show after show after show after 218 shows and
Yeah.
really shapes them in a different way. You just talked about logistics and had me think about logistics in a way that I hadn't thought of. And for me coming into the segment, I was like, well, the board itself that you are creating is the resource that you have to manage in a very unique way.
Yeah, the last skill I've got outside of spatial perception, but we talk about that all the time, and it's tile placement. Of course, there's going to be that in there, or tokens putting down on the board, but is observation. Anytime that you're drafting cards from a central row, there is a little bit of looking around the table and seeing, okay, maybe this may be the one that I really want, but can I afford to leave it out there? So I take it with my second one so I don't get stuck. All of that type of thing of looking around and seeing like, Michael's really going to be looking for that red flower to finish up that patch, so he's probably going to want that, and Dan might want this one, and so analyzing like, oh, maybe I should just take the start player now, and then the other one will be around for my next turn type of thing. So observation, a game that rewards careful watching of details, behaviors in order to understand and arrive at a judgment.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add into that, it is in every phase of the game, early, middle, and late, constantly observing. In an early game, it's the draft, what cards are available, might I be able to get in this round. In the middle of the game, it's kind of seeing what opponents are doing, and at the end of the game, I'm only observing what I'm doing, and there's a sense of urgency around it. So
yeah. All right. So what are your final thoughts on this one, Michael?
Yeah, my final thought for Hutan is the game is just coming out, and it's a bit early to put this type of pressure on the game, but it feels like an award winner. Could be a spiel. I don't know. Way too early to be thinking about anything like that. I just hope it gets a lot of love at a lot of tables, and it fits in so many different settings.
Yeah. I think it's a great game with approachable rules and rewarding gameplay, but it doesn't outstay its welcome. And yet at the same time, it has enough variety to keep it fresh from game to game. And that's whether you're playing with new or experienced gamers. And that combination of things is pretty rare in a game to kind of fit all of those things together. Almost the theme of this game, I feel, is like threading the needle because they did it so well. And so that is our game of the week this week, Hutan, Life in the Rainforest by the Op Games.